Now, good evening, everyone. It is lovely to see you all again, and welcome to our first proper setup for a guest show in the new year, which is brilliant to see. Now, first couple of thank yous. Got a special thank you to Linda for sending me a birthday card. It was really appreciated and totally unexpected. And also, thank you very much for sending us a Green Planet paper card, which has come. And Maddie, who runs them, is also here this evening. So thank you for making this. I'm going to plant it in my garden soon.
Glad you like it. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Not the most fun birthday I've ever had, no, but
should you be able to get there, you can actually drink in America now.
Yeah, but I'm on the soft stuff tonight. I'm on squash. So sad times for us all. But thank you very much for everyone's coming this evening. It's great to see you. And we will get started. But thank you all for coming, especially because we're now, with our growing members, being able to up the quality of what we produce. And we've invested in a microphone. So we're getting better. And hopefully the show is coming across a lot more, well, I don't know what the word is.
Clear, sharp.
Yes, that's the word.
Clear and sharp.
So, would you like to get us underway, Dad?
Okay, as we like to start off our shows with a little bit of kind of philosophy, a little bit of thinking, and I mean it's a common topic that you hear, but I just want to spend a few minutes thinking about how we live in the now. You know, it's very easy to worry about the things that have happened, the things that we've done wrong, the mistakes that we've made. And it's also really, really easy to spend a lot of our time worrying about the things that are going to come. And it's really, really important to try and just detach yourself from that. Now, if you think about that and you look at anything that's in the countryside, anything that exists, if you look at a rabbit, all a rabbit does is do what rabbits do. It feeds, it breeds, it rests. But for the most part, majority of animals haven't got any real concept of, I forgot yesterday or tomorrow. I even look at the dogs that we live with, we share our house with. And for the most part, they just live in now. They have no great recollection of, and sometimes you think, how can they not remember what we did last time? But they don't. You know, you don't tend to see stressed dogs and stressed cats. I think we can learn a lot from the animals around us. But one of the things that we can do to help ourselves to exist in the now is have a good routine. And we started last week looking at our potential morning routines that we can do. And last week we were talking about what we call the gratitudes. It's actually getting out, and I mean, I go out and talk to the world and I say thank you for everything that in my life is of importance and value. You know, I thank the fact that I have an amazing wife who's managing to deal with the current situation really well. And we talked about, you know, Ross has been growing as a young man hugely, especially during the shows that we've been doing. But we want to move on because as well as going out and having those gratitudes that we do, I actually have a morning kind of physical routine. It's all based on balance. And we went out on Sunday and we shot a little video all about those balances that I do. Now, I've been doing these for 4 to 5 months now. I wouldn't say that I was an expert or even close to being ballerina standard, but we're going to show you what I do. There's four main exercises to this, and so we're going to just quickly look at each one, and then we've got a short video, and there's no bounds to our abilities with technology. We've managed to get a bit of a soundtrack to the end, so I shall shut up on that part.
And special thank you to our member, founder member, Verbo, for helping us out getting that working.
So anyway, we're going to have a look, and then after that, Kirsty, we're going to show you the picture that you asked for of Ross doing one of those balances, okay?
Very badly, very badly, just to clarify.
Indeed, so.
Here is the video for you all.
So this is one that I tend to call, if you like, the gratitude pose. Bit of a salutation. I tend to hold these poses for around about 11 seconds. This one I call the egg. You see, we're working on cycles. So we have gratitude, We then come as an egg. This one I call the bird. So obviously we come from the egg and we fly. We have full of life. And at the end of life, we become a star. So this is, for me, is the star pose. And this is the whole lot together. So I think the important thing with these is that you concentrate. Your mind has to be right now. It's about taking things slowly, securely, being confident. And it is wonderful when you get it right. But it has to be said, I do spend as much time rolling around sometimes as a weeble than managing to achieve that. But it really, really has helped just to keep my mind in the now. So,
just a couple of things come back in the chat from some of our members. Just Kirsty just said, I want to do that now. Looks really good for balance. And I was saying, that is impressive. I'll have a go. Great balance as well.
It is, but it's also important to think you might not be able to get outside, you know, or some of us are not as physically able as we like to be. So it is a case of just trying to do what you actually can do in the situation that you're in. But as I say, we're going to just show you the picture of, as Ross was trying to do one of the balances, and well,
it's not the greatest picture of me I've ever definitely been known for. Come on, that one and that one. So there you go, Kirsty. There is the picture you asked for, and as you can see, I don't look as fluent and as balanced as that is, clearly, because I thought my leg was way out and I thought my arms were much further apart, but clearly not.
It is. I mean, it's good to see the example, because one of the things I try and do is make sure my hands are straight, make sure my feet are sticking out behind me. And yeah, but I totally agree. You'll get from the video I was doing, I always like to think my legs are fully out straight and my body's in the right place. But you know what? It doesn't actually matter. It's making that effort that I think is the important thing. And just working out what it is, because that isn't where I started. It's kind of developed over that period of time. So anyway.
We just had Kirsty's come back and said it's a great pick, A for effort. Well, thank you very much. So that was my first ever go. I thought it didn't go too badly.
I thought it was a B- myself.
I will do one and take a pic. Don't judge though, please.
No, as I say, one of the fun parts of being a member, obviously, is you can get those pictures into the Facebook closed group, and we do, as a community, support each other. So that's really cool. Anyway, yes. From two-legged people to a two-legged Ave. There's a bit of a birdie thing going on tonight, and we're going to start off with robins. Now, we're going to play a little video first, we're going to play a little video. No, a video.
Oh, wrong one. Whoops, I'm getting carried away.
So this is, those who were here last week might remember that tunnel bridge.
Yeah,
but anyway,
we're
going to play the video and we'll talk about it afterwards.
It's a robin. You see, it looks a bit like a football. It's because when they puff all their feathers right up large, it traps air. So when they then warm it with their bodies, it keeps them warm. So as well as having all of that fantastic down, they fill themselves up, make themselves look big. And this one looks like a little tennis ball. It's about the size of a tennis ball. and then they can stay warmer. And that's this morning. It was actually -3 degrees. Went out this morning and helped the local Chamber of Trade take down the Christmas tree lights from town. And when you're small, any insulation you can get helps out big time. So here he is, or she is, because only robins can tell them apart. Doing their level best to stay as warm as possible on what was a very cold day.
So, amazing little birds. I mean, but one of the funny things is that quite often people will think, oh, see a robin without a red breast. They think it's a female, which is absolutely not the case. Male and female robins are, to the rest of us, to the rest of the world, totally identical. As I said there, it's only male and female robins that can tell the difference. If you see a robin without a red breast, then it's a juvenile, it's a youngster, because they don't have that red breast until they fledge the first time, which will be late summer, early autumn. And one of the reasons for that is that if the adult saw a red breast on a young robin, even if it was the one that they raised, they would attack it and try to drive it off, because robins are really, really kind of quite aggressive, and they are actually very, very territorial. They will have their own patch of ground specifically, but so therefore they don't get that red breast until such time as they've actually become adults and mature. Now, obviously, as we all know, they are a Christmas card bird. And the reason for that is obviously that red breast, which stands out bright in the winter, but also the numbers of robins in winter, or if I speak English, the number of the robins in this country, the numbers get exaggerated by migrants that come in from Europe, because quite often here we are a little bit warmer because the UK is in the Gulf Stream, which keeps us a lot warmer than many parts of Europe. So that helps to build them up. Now, I don't know if anybody's actually been really listening, but a robin actually changes his song. And there's a reason for that, because in the summer and the autumn and the winter, their song is basically saying to any other robin that, you know, this is my patch of ground. This is my trees, my grass, my plants, my worms, my small insects, and you can't come in here and you can't have it because it's mine. And they will, and they have been recorded as actually fighting to the death to protect their patch, which is quite staggering when we look at them and think, aren't they cute and small and lovely? And they are, but they have a song that basically says, just don't come near, it ain't worth the risk unless you think you're hard enough. You know, they're a bit kind of teenagery and whatever, but they changed the song in spring. And robins have changed their song in the last 2 to 3 weeks. The first change song just after, it was actually Christmas Eve, because in our group, we actually put up a video. I went out walking, it was Christmas Day. I actually went out early on Christmas Day before everybody else was up with the dogs, and got a recording of a robin. But we've got a recording here, which I recorded last week on my phone, literally just 50 yards down the road from here. And this is the spring song. It's exactly the same meaning with one major adjustment. And that is, all of those things stand. You know, this is my tree, my grass, my small bugs, my worms, my plants, unless you're a member of the opposite sex, in which case you can come in, we'll make babies, and when we've done that, you can still clear off again. Okay, so this is the robin spring song.
And this is also, my brain is called a video. Don't ask
That's
why.
it. So anyway, here we go. Just to give you some idea of exactly how loud that is, I couldn't see the robin. I had a vague idea of the direction that it was in. But robins and wrens are really, really loud, especially considering the size of them. And that is because when you're offering a warning to anyone else, you've got to be loud. So, bit of a little recap then. amazing little birds, full of character, full of aggression.
And brave.
Brave.
Very brave.
Able to adjust their song. One of their major evolutionary success stories is the ability to get onto Christmas cards and therefore be loved by millions.
And also the tail, Robin Hood.
Robin Hood.
Robin. More publicity for him.
Absolutely. That's a major marketing masterstroke. But yeah, we love them. And it's weird because for all of that, you can actually, if you put a lot of work into it, with maggots, for example, get them to feed from your hand. They will nest anywhere that they feel that they're safe, whether that's in a boot or a welly or a saddlebag or in the workshop that they can find. So they kind of have a bit of a man's best friend thing about them. And actually, I also really like the robin in the secret garden. You remember the robin that showed the way? Beautiful little bird. So,
a couple of things in the chat about the robins.
Well,
beautiful song that sound quite friendly, to be fair. Not like a warning.
I guess it's all in the ears of the listener.
I have a robin that loves to hop near me when I'm weeding. Is it likely that there'll only be this one in my garden?
It depends on how large the territory is. It could be that their territory, if you like, if it's, for example, maybe 6 by 3 meters and they've got everything that they need in that territory, then they'll defend that. And there might be another robin on the other side of the garden. So it just depends on the size of their territory. And of course, the other place where you might see them coming together is underneath a feeder. They're rubbish at actually eating from feeders, but they are pretty good at hoovering around underneath. So that's another place, and there's called less competition then.
I've got another question. What's the best way to get them to nest in our garden?
You can put up a nest box, and robin boxes are ones that were kind of half of the front of the box is open. You know, the nest boxes that we've shown on here have had that small hole which is a blue tip box. But if you kind of took half of the front of that off, then that technically is what's called a robin box. But as I said, robins will actually nest anywhere that they like. If they can find food and they can get somewhere warm and out of the way, they will. But the stories of robin, there was a story I read somewhere of a robin that actually nested underneath the bonnet in the engine of a car. And thankfully, the person who found this robin was a kindly, wildlife, robin-friendly person, and they didn't actually drive for the month to 6 weeks that the robins were actually there. Mrs. Robin was on the nest until the little ones fledged, which is kind of lovely, really.
That's a good point. I tend to have a robin in my garden a lot, but there are never two. I will show my pics on the Facebook page later on, Facebook group later on.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Another one saying, do you sell them too? I'm sure we can source one for you if you would like one.
Absolutely. We can have a chat with our local supplier, and I don't think there'd be any problem with that whatsoever. And come to that, if there was an immediate demand, we could probably slightly modify some of the tip boxes that we have got, especially.
Just for you. Just for you.
Just for you.
Well, moving on a little bit now from birds. We'll come back to birds shortly. But now, this is one of the longest standing recurring features or topics for us, which is Dawn Story. This is Kingsdown Dawn Story Part 2, and also Nature Reclaims in one, because it's Kingsdown Rifle Range at the same time. So what we'll do is we'll play the video, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the history of Kingsdown Rifle Range.
Got some good pictures as well, haven't you?
We have got some historical pictures just to add to the show.
Good morning. We're back at Kingsdown again for another Dawn Story. This one a little bit different. When we first got up this morning, it was very wet, very damp. We got to the car and then it got a bit heavier. And we've done our usual trick and we managed to get it and the rain has stopped. So, like our somehow normal trick, we've now managed to keep the rain away when we want to do some videos. Right, this is part 2 of the Dawn Stories at Kingsdown. If you turn to your left, you will see large amounts of breakwaters. Now, all of these breakwaters, they are man-made and they are not a single also put in place just so you can stop shingle from rising up. It also means that they're to protect the houses. And if you also just come back towards me, this metal railing is there to stop you from getting the wall. But it hasn't done the best of jobs. We'll check back on you shortly.
So, you may remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about the destructive power of the sea when we were at Peggle Bay, and there's a massive example of it right here. You see the concrete wall that has been built around the edge of the rifle range and down the end to protect the kind of concrete structures that were built during World War II. And you can see where a large section of it has actually been knocked down, where the sea, when it comes in with the wind behind it, it's got such a huge destructive power, and it knocks that wall right down. In fact, if you come here in the winter, you can quite clearly see when the sea is coming and going right over that wall in dramatic sea sprays, the power that it's actually got. So we're going to show you some more damaging effects of the sea further down. Gives you an idea of just how quickly nature can reclaim all the work that we do.
This here on my right is an old shooting embankment. Now, on this embankment, they would put targets. It used to be about 3 to 4 targets on the embankment, so it wasn't too cluttered. Now, as you can see, this was firing range, and it would run along to the other embankment, and they would sit on top of the embankment at the bottom of it. It's around 50 metres. It's not too far away, but they should still be able to hit the target. Now, there's a picture I'm going to show you just after this in the PowerPoint. And the picture itself has got this whole area, grass, all the way to the wall being built at the same time. And it's all grass. And there's canvas tents all along the beach. Everywhere you look, there are canvas tents. It's a little bit different in our day and age. We'll check back in with you just in a minute. Now, where we showed you just a minute ago, that was kind of the medium to everyday life during World War II shooting area, firing range. Now this was the more of the marksman area. And what they would do is they would stand right on the edge of the cliff and they would shoot out to these concrete pillars. And these concrete pillars, they had very, very small targets, no bigger than 2 grams in a circle put together. Those targets were designed for people who needed to be more accurate, who were specialist marksmen and were really good shooters as such during the war. There was also one, there's another one over there, and there used to be another one in the middle, and there were 2 more to my right. They're no longer here to see it's taking them back. We'll get to the rest of the fire range. Now, this end of the rifle range is a little bit flatter. It's a little bit more for hand-to-hand combat. What was really, really interesting about the rifle range is the fact that they built it right on the edge of the cliffs. 1, so they could see the Germans coming, and 2, well, they knew it at the time, but it was never going to get bombed because Hitler was going to have breakfast at Dover Castle. That's why it's still standing to this day, just because he was going to have breakfast there. That's why he told everyone not to bomb it. Otherwise, he said he would shoot them.
We're at the south end of Kingsdown Rifle. This is where the wall comes around and meets the cliffs again. You can really see the effective destructive power of our seas. And behind me, there's a large amount of the wall that's completely collapsed. There's a hole in the wall at the bottom where the sea is coming through. And it's spraying all over the ground. So not only is it pounding against the wall, but having made that hole, we can now affect it from inside, from below, from outside, and it's only a matter of time before the whole lot comes down. In
In fact, they're really likely not to walk on the wall at this end of the rifle range. But of course, being humans and being nosy and being, whoa, we all still do. So we're right up against the cliffs. And if you remember when we did the dusk story from St Margaret's to Kingsdown, we talked about how the cliffs are porous, and when they get cracks in, the water actually fills those cracks. And when it expands, and the cliffs will come down, whether that's through gravity or expansion of those cracks. We're actually standing on a mound of chalk that has fallen fairly recently. If you look behind me, there are some fairly large boulders of chalk. And that's what gives this region of Kent, the White Cliffs of Dover and Kingsdown, their unique appearance, which is loved by seabirds because it gives those rugged edges that they can use to nest on. Fulmars, you've seen already, but we get kittiwakes come in as well. They're another fantastic seabird. You have to question why they're here right now because it's January, whether they've been pushed here because they're a bit early. But another one of those lovely little mysteries that we'll have to ponder for the moment. But if it really closes in the next week or two, that's probably because they got pushed out from the sea early. Thank you.
You might have noticed a slight error there, actually. You haven't seen the Fulmars bit yet because with the power of television, the power of technology, we've saved those shots for in a little while.
Yeah. Just to clarify as well, that part of the rifle range and the concrete wall that's actually fallen down, there was that hole. That's happened very recently because when I was 15, 16, 17, that was still built and you could walk over the top of it, not knowing that a couple of years down the line it wouldn't be there anymore.
And it wasn't that long ago, actually, where Ross went down into that hole, not realising that the water was coming through like it did. And they actually came home an awful lot more wet than when we went.
And on that day as well, we managed to do our trademark where we went out when it was raining, we walked, did all the videos and produced all the content and the dog walk, and we got back to the car as it started raining.
That's the power of a raincoat.
We just seemed to have the luck when we decided to go out and shoot some content. So clearly, we get lucky quite a lot. But here is the history on a bit of Kingsdown Rifle range. So it was rented by the army in 1856. They rented it for 1 shilling. All a long, long time ago. Very long time ago. And you'll see in the pictures as well of how the beach has changed. Even the beach itself, not the rifle range, but the actual beach with the break walls and everything, that has all changed too. The army first built on the land in 1872. So it took them a little while to build on it. But they built a latrine, a small store and a stable. So it's a long, long time before they start putting up any canvas tents and putting up any targets. I mean, they're the basics, I guess, to start.
Well, the latrine's important.
And in 1897, the rifle range was moved a few hundred metres up the beach due to cliff erosion from shooting into the cliff. So originally, the rifle range actually started a bit further up the cliff. If you remember from the Dawn story, there's those houses on the left. Now that is where the rifle range originally started. They used to shoot bullets into the cliff rather than shooting at targets. So they would put a cardboard cutout or whatever the version of a cardboard cutout was back then, and they would shoot it. But it was attached to the cliff, and when they shot so many bullets into the cliff, it started to take the cliff down. And the guy that actually owned it, he turned around to the army and went, "If you're going to keep shooting at my cliff, I'm not going to rent it to you anymore because I want to build on top of that cliff." And the building that he built not so long ago was renovated and is now a £4 million house with a lift where you drive your car up at the bottom of the cliff, park it, getting a lift, and go all the way up to the top where your house is.
It's an amazing view, though.
It's not a bad view, but I haven't got £4 million spare to go and buy it.
Good job we can see the dawn from the beach then.
Exactly.
It is.
And also as well, the cliff shooting was stopped and the rifle range was moved because the targets were erected out at the sea along the banks. Now, I'm just going to show you some pictures which will kind of explain what I mean by the whole area was actually moved a couple hundred metres up the beach.
Oh, there's Ross again.
So, this was in 1910, and where those buildings are, that was the latrine, the small store, and the stable. Now, that building there is where those breakwaters are nowadays. And on the left, where you can just see that patch of green on top of the cliff, that is now Kingsdown Camping, or caravan and camping park. And they used to shoot into that cliff on the left there, as well as shoot in the cliff a little bit further along, closer to the houses. Now, it also shows how much the sea has come in the years since then. You think that's, what, 111 years? And the water is so much further out, and it is green, it is nice, good land. And whereas nowadays, when the tide is out at Kingsdown, it is all filled with, what's the stuff called?
Reefs.
That's the stuff, reefs.
Reefs.
Couldn't think of the name of it.
Is that the Zetland Arms there?
Pardon?
Is that the Zetland Arms in the back there?
That is the Zetlands. Now, this building here is, if I'm circling the right one, there's that one. This building here is the Zetland pub, which is still there to this day.
But I did a presentation on the beach by the Zetland Arms, which was a bit surreal. We had these two PA speakers set up behind me. I had this microphone, and people were sat on their trestle tables, and they had push bikes all round. We've got some photographs of it somewhere. It was a bit. Wasn't your normal kind of stage presentation area, but you know what? It was kind of cool.
That's posted in the group.
Yes, we will. I've got one of those. We'll get that up.
And this is it in 1985. So again, it's still a long time ago, but you can see how nature has taken back that edge of the cliff because it is fully grown up now, and it is fully filled with bushes and hedges, and all the wildlife in there is starting to grow through it. The birds are nesting in there. Foxes live in there quite often as well. But what's also interesting is that this building here, that isn't there anymore. That building no longer exists. I could not find any information as to why. So if any of our members do have an idea, or any of our guests have an idea as to why that building isn't there, I really would like to know, because I'm a little bit intrigued.
Jeez, but none of the breakwaters are there either.
No,
are they?
but what's interesting is these breakwaters here, these are the same breakwaters that are used now. They just were dug up and brought back.
Yeah, because they're much further away from the road, aren't they?
Yes, and that green section here is no longer there as well, because they have all of the rocks along
Indeed.
here now.
That's obviously that's where all the shingle's been moved by the sea, because there's quite a drop off there now. Very much so.
So no, that is Nature Acclaimed and Dawn Story at Kingsdown.
Brilliant. Now, one of the things that, if you like, is so amazing about going outside is you never entirely know exactly what you're going to see. And there's always a surprise waiting for you. There's always something that's going to make you go, wow. You know, and that's one of the reasons why we like to try and get out all year round. You know, I mean, we talked about getting out and coming back in and all the rest of it, but there's always something that will surprise you. Now, we mentioned the Fulmars just briefly in the last clip, but we've got a little bit of footage of them. It's a little bit, again, it's early January, or it was early January when we shot that, and you wouldn't expect them to come in for another month or so. And we've talked about the fact that nature's all over the place at the moment. There's an awful lot of plants that have flowered early. There's fruiting plants that have gone far past their season. But the Fulmars came in early. Now we're going to show you the videos, because otherwise we'll do our usual trick. I'll tell you everything that's in the video before we have the video. So anyway, this is a little bit about Fulmars.
So, the bird you can see here is a Fulmar. Kind of a bit like seagulls, but they are not seagulls. They spend their life out at sea exclusively. They spend their time either on the sea or flying above it, feeding from the sea, catching small fish and such like. And they then just come into land to breed. So we are at the beginning of January. They're very enthusiastic, but they are the most amazing bird. They have this kind of different kind of flight to a seagull. And as you can see, they are very good at just gliding on the thermals, on the wind. Very rarely flapping. But I can remember, whoa, lost it. We used to go bird ringing. And we would look to catch the Fulmars. And like all seabirds, when you put them out, like release them, they kind of go into the air and they flap. But the other interesting thing is that when you catch them, what they generally tend to do is throw up all over you if you're not ready. So here you go, Fulmars, amazing birds. So again, massive great crevice in the cliff. You can see the Fulmar sitting in that big kind of square hole.
So yeah, they're birds that spend kind of most of their life at sea. Now they only actually come into land to breed. And as you can see, there was a little bit of a kind of mating courtship going on at the beginning there where they landed. But they're pretty rubbish at walking. You know, they're really good at flying. They're really good at swimming. And they're entirely adapted to do that. But they come in because obviously you can't lay an egg on the sea. It's going to either float and get cold or it's going to sink. But they come in, they lay one egg, just the one egg. And they invest everything through the breeding season into that one egg. And then obviously, as soon as that egg has become a chick and the chick has fledged, they then return back to the sea. But there's that flight, it's a really kind of stiff-winged flight. And if there's no other way that you could recognize them from a seagull, just watch for that, which is quite unique. And the other thing, they've got a kind of tube on the top of their beaks. So I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure what that's for, but it is, you can actually see it quite clearly. But I do remember I used to go and help out at Sandwich Bay Bird Observatory, and there was a fairly enthusiastic active ringing team. And basically, when you managed to catch the Fulmar, and I have to admit, the bloke who did the actual catching, his means of catching them kind of like beggared belief. He put a rope and a harness around himself, and with 3 or 4 of us holding onto the rope, he'd go over the side of the cliff, and he would then grab the mum, bring her up, and we'd actually put rings on them, which is used for, you know, tracking them, working out the numbers, where they're going, working out their habits, so that we can help them as a species actually survive, because there's been a lot of problems with a lot of seabirds of vanishing food and things. But you had to be really careful, because when you caught them and you actually got them on land, they pretty much always threw up, and their undigested dinner stank. And I mean, really stank. So you make sure you got them on there, you get hold of them, and you make sure you're facing them away from you, because otherwise it was one of those smells you couldn't get shot of, and it could well mean you had to walk home because no one would let you in the car. But they're amazing birds, and just one of those to experience, and hopefully what we'll see soon as well, if we can get a little bit further out to St Margaret's maybe, and maybe get some footage of kittiwakes as well, because they're amazingly cool. They are seagulls as well. There we go.
Do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do that.
See if they're still around at St Margaret's, that would be dead cool. Anyway, so there you go. That was one of those, wasn't planned, but it's kind of like, well, there's some Fulmars, and just so chuffed to actually get some pretty cool footage. So there you go.
Now, the next part of the show this evening is part one almost. It's the sort of the short kind of a few star constellations that we commonly can see. And there are plenty more in the sky, but these are kind of the easier ones to see for everyone that actually wants to go outside and have a look themselves. Now, I mean, I've had some interesting experience with star constellations. Most of them have involved a bit of alcohol. But I mean, me and my friends last summer, we decided that we were going to go camping because we couldn't go to a festival and we couldn't go abroad. So we went camping just outside of Hastings at a place called Ashburnham Place. And we went camping, and every evening we'd sit outside as long as possible. We had a barbecue, we'd eat the food, and then we'd turn the barbecue into a little bit of a fire pit. And every evening we'd sit out there and we'd watch the stars. And one of my friends has the app where if you point your phone in the sky, it tells you what the constellations are. So we spent the 4 or 5 days we were camping every evening monitoring where these constellations were in the sky. And we proceeded to come home, and just before previous lockdown, just before November lockdown, we actually sort of had a kind of a last hurrah as such before we got put in another lockdown. And we all went and stood outside and just watched the stars, and just to see what the difference was between the different places we were in the country. So that's just how I kind of thought, well, maybe this is something that everyone wants to see. So I'll bring up the PowerPoint and we'll get started.
Definitely, especially when kind of like more of our day is actually night at the moment. It's kind of much easier to get out and see the stars. We know that it's been a bit wet, so therefore we've had a lot of cloud. But when that cloud has rolled back, we've had some amazingly clear nights.
Right. So yeah, star constellations. The first one is the Seven Sisters. And this is the most common and easy constellation to see. And it is so bright you cannot miss it, and you will never see 7 stars so close together that are so bright any other time. But what is interesting is that the Seven Sisters, every star has a name. Now, you have to bear with me with this because I may get the pronunciation wrong of some of them, because they are...
Was that pronunciation?
That's the one. You wouldn't think I got a name in English, would you? So, they are Asterope, Taygeta, Maya, Kalehi, Electra, Merope, Alcyone, Pleione, and Atlas.
Have you not learnt them off by heart?
I hope that is how you pronounce them, because I have not much clue. But hopefully that's helpful. Now, on to the next one. Next one is Ursa Major, or more commonly known as the Great Bear. Now, this itself has got a little bit of history behind it as to why it's called the Great Bear, because without that image of a bear over the top, I think you would struggle to see it as a bear in itself. But it consists of the Big and Little Dipper, but I'll get back to that shortly because they are coming up soon. But it's the 3rd largest constellation in the sky. So wherever you are, it'll always be the 3rd largest. That's pretty cool.
Definitely.
Pretty cool. But this is kind of the history behind it. It's all the Greek mythology. Essentially, the god Zeus had fallen in love with a maiden Callisto and got her pregnant. When a child was born, as revenge, Zeus's wife Hera turned Callisto into a bear. Now that's kind of why it's called the Great Bear. There's also a little bit more history, but we'll get to that when we talk about Ursa Minor, or the Little Bear, in just a minute. Now within this, you can see the Big Dipper, which is just there. It almost looks like a saucepan. You've got the handle here, and then you've got the pan itself there.
I always knew that one as the plough.
Wow. Maybe
my father said it was actually the plough.
That's something every day. Who said you stop learning when you leave school? So this is the Big Dipper, and it's called an asterism. Now, an asterism is the name of a set of stars that add to another to make a constellation. Now, I didn't know that, but if you think about it, when you're in school and you've got all those little friendship groups, they all make up a year group. It's the same situation, but with stars. But instead, you have small asterisms which make up that constellation. Now, the end of the handle as well, this star just here, this is always the North Star. Always, always, always the North Star.
I thought the North Star was the one that, when you got those 2 on the right, and if you carry straight on up, there's a really bright star. I thought that was the North Star.
Well, maybe let's have a look.
We will.
And this is Ursa Minor, or the Little Bear. Now, when the 2 are compared to each other, the size difference is considerable. When you look in the sky and you actually see them, you can notice that the picture doesn't really do it justice, is what I'm trying to say. So it's going to go a long way around. The picture doesn't do it justice. It is considerably smaller than the rest of them. Now, this is the Ursa Minor, or the Little Bear. In Greek mythology, Arcus, the son of Zeus, went to throw a spear at a large bear when Zeus intervened and cast a whirlwind into the sky where Arcas and Castillo could be safe. Now, the first bear, being Castillo, was just left to roam out in the wildlife, and his son essentially went to throw a spear through it. And because of that, Zeus sent them both up into the sky. So Castillo is therefore almost the mother bear, and Arcas is the little bear, or the son bear as such. And he put them up there to keep them safe, as Greek mythology states. And the last one as well is the Little Dipper. Again, it's the same kind of place as where you saw the Big Dipper. And again, it has the same kind of outline with the pan and the handle. That is first instalment of Star Constellations. Now, I've seen the chat pinging off to my side, so I'll just quickly read through some of it. What is the app? Can you put it in the circle group, please? Of course, I will talk to some of my friends. I believe one of them is here tonight, so maybe she can help out, and she knows what it's called, and she can put it in the chat for everyone to use. Now, I've got one called Night Sky. I love it. There's an app that you could use, Night Sky. His name is Jason Oliver. He is also, oh, no, sorry, that's the wrong one. I know it as the Plough too. Yes, so did Dad. So clearly, there's two names for it. But I mean, I've never actually seen the Plough. When we ever looked at the sky, Dad would go, and there's the Plough, and he'd point it out, and I'd be clueless. And then I realised I always known it as the Big Dipper, or Ursa Major, or the Great Bear. Too many names for a fin. Too many names. And I've also known it as the Big and Little Dipper. Yes, so rather than just the two itself, being the Great Bear and the Little Bear, we actually identified them, me and my friends, as the Big and Little Dipper. We called this one the Saucepan. Yeah, that's what we've called them. And can you suggest a good website too for the constellations? I haven't actually found a website yet that is got lots of information about lots of different ones. There's lots of websites where they tell you about a certain couple and give you a really in-depth kind of background and history on it, but I'm yet to find one with all of the information built into it. What I will do is I will put in the group tomorrow morning, I will put in the links to the websites that I've used for the pictures, because I haven't got anything that can take pictures of that good quality, and I'm definitely not that good of an artist to draw better over the top. So that is the first instalment, and we will have another one probably next month, I imagine. Probably next month. Now, back to that.
Okay. So, not this weekend, but a week Saturday, a week Sunday is the RSPB's Big Garden Birdwatch. It's an annual survey weekend, if you like, where they invite the public to get involved, spend an hour watching the birds and recording and counting the birds in your own back garden. And it's pretty important. I mean, obviously, there's a certain amount of science that actually goes with it. And obviously, they're taking into account that some people are much better at recognising birds than others. And probably the largest part of it is just to get people actually looking out of the window and seeing what's there. And you can do your level best to encourage birds to come in. We actually went out for one of our members last week, and we've actually installed a bird table that they purchased from us.
But what was also interesting with the bird table is we put it up one day and it was green, and it was kind of normal British weather outside. And then there was another post put in the group the next morning, and everything was white.
Yes, white world. So you can put out bird feeders and try and get them out a little bit earlier to allow the birds to have time to actually know that they're there. Because like any animal, any organism, they're creatures of habit, and they'll have their routes and their routines. So if you want to actually bring more birds in and you haven't got feeders out, now's a good time. But if you want to get involved with that, you need to go onto the RSPB website. It's rspb.org.uk. Ross will put that in the chat in just a moment. And you can actually apply for your Garden Birdwatch pack. Now, in that pack, you will obviously get an introductory letter, which is dead cool. You will get your guide to help you identify garden birds. And it's got the most common ones that you're likely to see. So it's quite handy, quite easy, and you can put that on your lap or on a table or on the windowsill, and that will give you an idea of the birds that come in, especially if you're not really kind of experienced. And as we say, it don't have to be experienced. It's just wanting to have a look and wanting to kind of get involved. But you should hopefully see maybe some robins or some sparrows or possibly starlings. But they'll ask you to count them as well. You need to be a little bit careful with counting them, especially, for example, with a robin. Because if the robin kind of jumps from a hedge to the left-hand side and you see a robin come out and get some food and go back into the hedge, and then a little while later, a robin comes out and gets some more food and goes back in, you've probably only seen one robin. So what you have to try and remember is you can only count the maximum number of birds you ever see at one time. Now, we know that if you're looking at sparrows, that's a bit tricky because we've done the kind of count the sparrows here and they move around an awful lot. But it gives you a feel for the numbers that are there. It's not, not important to be perfect, but it is a great way to spend an hour on that Saturday or Sunday. Now, as well as your introductory letter and your bird guide, you will also get an advert inviting you to buy some bird food. And I would never say this publicly, but don't buy it from the RSPB, it's expensive. Most of the people that work for the RSPB don't buy it. I mean, when I worked there, we didn't. But I buy it in those big bags because it's cheaper as well. But you also get a report form so where you can actually put the number of birds on a sheet and post that off if you want to, or you can go on to again to the RSPB website, that's rspb.org.uk, and you can actually put your information in online and send it off, and you will get an acknowledgement at some point later, email or through the post, saying thank you very, very much. And the last time we did it, they actually sent a certificate out as well, which was really, really cool. But it's just a really cool project to get involved with. So we just thought it was worth including in here. And that actually starts, as I say, it's the last weekend of January. So it's a week Saturday and a week Sunday.
Just had one come back in the chat from one of our family members saying, I've got my bird watching packet already. Thank you.
Brilliant. Excellent. So that's really, really cool. So we're kind of coming towards the end of our first, if you like, open guest event, which has been really, really cool to have so many people come and join us. It's been absolutely amazing. We would really like it if you would like to become a member, and we're just going to spend a couple of minutes telling you a little bit about that, because obviously the more members that we get joining us, the more we can improve the technology, the more time and effort we can put into putting these shows together. And certainly those people that have been in from the get-go will know that we are improving bit by bit every week. So we'd love you to come and join us. Now, what do you actually get as a member? You get to come to all 4 meetings a month. Occasionally there's 5 meetings a month, you know, if there's 5 Thursdays. We also have, for members only, we have we have guest evenings. Next week, we've got Jane Dunsby coming. She's a forest therapist and qualified mindfulness coach. And she's going to help us to learn to engage really in deep depth with our countryside, which is going to be really, really cool. We also, on the other fortnight, we have walk episodes where we actually look at the whole episode is featuring a walk. Currently, they're pretty local because with the restrictions, we can't get very far away. But we get those benefits as well as the closed Facebook group. And so that people, because we're really trying to get this a community going here. So it's about joining in with the shows. It's about becoming a part of the Facebook group. But we also would like, you know, as a member, you're more than welcome to contribute to the show, whether that's with photos or a video, to be, you know, to become a part of this show. Because I know it's us presenting it, but we really, really do want as many people to get involved as possible. You also get 15% off all of the merchandise that we sell. And we obviously, as many of you know, we have bird boxes, bat boxes, hedgehog boxes, and should you wish to,
DIY bird box.
DIY bird boxes. We're
Bird
still
tables.
looking forward to seeing that painted one, Kirsty. That looked really cool. So to get those, but also
Bird
when
tables.
bird tables. But when the world opens up again, then we'll also be running our outdoor experiences again, where we take people out into the world, and we're based on the 5 senses, which we're running really, really successfully last year. So you get to have 15% off those as well. But not only that, You will also get a signed copy of one of my books. Now, if you really, really wanted the 3-year pond, we could probably arrange that, or the 4 keys, or the 5 senses. But one of those will come with you, and that's at a cost of £19 a month, which we think is pretty cool value.
I mean, at the end of the day, for us, is we want to build this to a community of like-minded people where everyone is sharing experiences from all over. Whether if we had a member in Scotland and they were in knee-deep snow and they've got all the foxes running around and things like that, and we can share it and we can all see it and appreciate it. And it would be amazing to grow this community and make it into something huge, something massive. And if we can do that, then we can get out once all these restrictions are lifted, and we can try and get some incredible content to bring to the community.
So that would be really cool. So Ross, if he hasn't done already, there'll be a link go in the chat. And obviously in the follow-up email tomorrow, we'll make sure that the link there is also available for anybody who would be interested in that. That would be absolutely fantastic. But thank you so much for coming along tonight. We really do appreciate it. And you are allowed to come twice to open meetings without being a member. So if you're thinking about it, then just let us know and you can come along in a fortnight's time. But we'd love to have you on board.
We just also need to say to all of the members and to anyone that's going to be a future member that next week's show is on the Wednesday. It is on the Wednesday because it is when it fitted in great with Jane. That is why we changed it. So it is now been moved to the Wednesday, usual time, just on Wednesday instead. So I'll just pass over to Dad and he will give us some final words.
Okay. So we always like to finish off with just something to leave you to think through the week. Now, have you ever thought how it is that you can actually do what you do? Why it is that when you think, I want to raise my right arm, you can raise your right arm. Or when you want to waggle your fingers, you can waggle your fingers. Or have you ever thought about the fact that there are so many things that you do without thinking about it? For example, breathing. Can you imagine how long you'd actually manage to stay alive if you had to remember to breathe? That's quite an awesome concept. Now, if you just think about it, there's something there that enables that to happen. Because it's not your thinking mind, it's something very deep and subconscious. Now, if you then take that in mind, and you actually took a human body, for example, and split it down into its component parts, yeah, so that you had nothing else left, but so you had bones and organs and skin, and you laid them all out, yeah, and then you put them all back together again. That amazing thing that enables you to do what you do without thinking about it would be gone. There is something amazing. There is a real magic and special glue that makes us work and makes us what we are and makes us vastly bigger than the sum of our parts. And when you actually take that in, just think about that for a moment, it just points out how absolutely special every one of us actually is. Thank you very much indeed. We look forward to seeing as many of you as possible next week.
Thank you, everyone. Been a pleasure, as always.
Thank you both very much.
You're welcome.